Eric, you want to talk about some stuff you got over the last couple weeks? And then I'm pretty much today, besides a few recent issues with comics, going to talk about Planet Comicon from last weekend and show you some of the stuff I got there. So why don't you go through your stuff and I'll do that.
So two of these things I'm actually kind of remiss on. Well, one of them I'm remiss on. The other one I'm just going to bring up for
older
reasons.
things that you forgot to talk about.
Yeah. So this is Grimlock, who is my favorite Transformer. I did not show this last time. David Crabtree got me this for Christmas, along with the Liger that I cannot speak about.
Right.
And I brought him in because I also I got this right before last show and I forgot to bring it out. I got a Hot Rod.
Oh, he looks really cool.
Right?
In box.
He's super cool.
Wow, you showed me him in box, but that did not do him justice.
So
he's so colorful.
Yeah, no, he's awesome. So I think that, because my thing with Transformers is I don't have to collect every version of every character. I just want a representative of each versions of the characters I really like.
Right.
Of the ones that like Transformers, like I think of that I love, because I'm a kid of Transformers the movie, a legitimate Ultra Magnus that's not just a painted white Optimus Prime, because the 2000s we just released Optimus Prime white and said it was Ultra Magnus. A legitimate Ultra Magnus that looks good, which I'm sure will not be less than $60, and a legitimate Galvatron looks good, which I believe has never been made.
Oh, really?
So,
wow.
So that one might not just be me being...
You'd think that would be a thing people would want.
They made one in the
He's popular, right?
Yeah. More so like he's one of those characters that was popular but isn't so much now.
Okay.
They made one in the mid-2000s that was a great figure.
We sell the collectors for nostalgia all the time.
That's true. Yeah, but they remember Megatron. They don't remember Galvatron.
Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying. Even with the movie? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But they made a Galvatron in the mid-2000s, which was supposed to be like a big toy, and at the last minute they decided to shrink it, and that did not work, and that's apparently a terrible toy. And there's one that just came out, which is probably the one I would get if I had to get one, which is the only real problem is they did a whole line where all of them are headmasters, which means their heads transform into tiny Transformers. Which this Grimlock actually is, I believe. I believe his head is a tiny Transformer. Because he's a tiny Transformer, he can't have the mask. So what they did is, you have a head that you put on him, and then his chest has a flip-up mask that just kind of sits in front of his face, and that's his crown bit, the purple crown bit. Not in love with that, but otherwise it looks good. So like if I was gonna get one, I might get those. So actually, just today I purchased this. It's an anime called Orphan, which my friend John and I back when we were in middle school rented this from the library, watched half of it, returned to the library, got stolen. I've never seen the back half of this. I'm also not entirely sure this will hold up at all, but I bought it because I want to see it.
You're always talking about how expensive animes are. How bad was that?
$30.
That's not horrible. Why? How many episodes is it? I mean, is it a hefty one? Okay.
I think 24. I think there's a second show, so I don't know if this collects that, but I think it's 24. It doesn't say anywhere. 6 discs. This is another anime I purchased. This is Record of Lotus War, Chronicles of Heroic Knight. I just recently...
That I've heard of, but probably just from you.
Probably just from me. This is the thing that was at half price books where I was like, I need to remember to get that.
And then you found it cheaper.
Yeah. So Record of Lotus War is again, one of those things really popular, not anymore. A lot of people don't know about. It's a big fantasy anime, which I'll be talking about later because I rewatched it before watching this. It's the original is a 13-episode anime series that adapts a book, but only the first half adapts it, and like the back half of it, they just made up their own stuff. And so this adapts the rest of the books, apparently much more accurately. And I've never seen this one. I've only seen the other one. So I got that, which I'll also mention. They finally published the first book of Record Lotus War, which has never been published in English. Cool. It's a great edition. It's like 200 and something pages. The text is quite big. I might try to read that because...
It's a really pretty cover.
I think I'm going to stop on Salem's Lot until I finish it, because it actually is running together. Like, I started listening to it at one point, and I was like... I was thinking about the Marston House and vampires. I was like, oh no, this isn't that one. So, I might try to read this before we do our next one, just to see what it's like.
Yeah, and it looks, thin enough.
Yeah, it's pretty thin, and, I mean, the text is pretty big. So I'll be talking about Lotus War for the next 2 weeks.
He's not saying because of attention span. He's saying that because he doesn't have a lot of extra time to read.
And I'm reading comics on top of it. But no, I'm going to try to read this. This is one of the first... Japan has a line of... or a type of book called light novels, which are meant to be short, fast reads.
You can read a couple hours or whatever.
Yeah, and this was one of the first one of those, so it's kind of historically important.
That's cool.
The last thing I will mention is, I don't know if I've talked about this, but IDW seems to have lost the license for Godzilla.
I don't think you have brought this up yet on the channel.
So IDW seems to have lost the license to Godzilla.
This could be a rant.
I mean, I don't know what I'd rant about, just commerce.
These things don't cost more than I want them to.
Yeah, I spent quite a bit of money on some of these.
Yeah.
This
is unusual for Eric. This is in that place where we're trying to decide if he counts as a collector or not.
So
some of these things you don't even want to read. Like, you don't even care about.
This is the only one. This is the only one that I would not have necessarily
I'm sorry, I'm stepping on you. Go ahead.
So, IDW seems to have lost the license for Godzilla. All the Godzilla trades on Amazon disappeared. Went out of print. Now, some of them are quite expensive. So immediately I was like, I own over half of these, and I intend to buy all of these. I just kind of bided my time, and then now they're really expensive, and they could only get, and maybe they'll get more expensive.
Yeah.
So I spent all of my YouTube money and some of my actual cash to get all of the Godzilla books by IDW that I do not have. I am currently only missing one, which is Godzilla Volume 3, which is dumb, because I have 1 and 2. I just never got it, because I just wasn't that interested in that series, but that one's only like $9, so I can get that pretty easily. So I got Godzilla Oblivion, which I would not have bought if I had not decided on buying all of them.
Is it the one that you showed me and the art was pretty bad?
Yeah.
That was...
I got Godzilla Awakening, which is another thing I just kept putting off. This is the prequel to the 2014 Godzilla film.
Oh.
And written by the writer of the 2014 Godzilla, well, the credited writer.
Interesting. What if it's better than the movie?
It might be.
Or what if it's more exciting than the movie?
I got Godzilla Rage Against Time.
You wouldn't expect Godzilla would show up in that.
No.
How would Godzilla even be in that?
Because
if it's a prequel, how would he even show up?
Because the big reveal in that movie is that the nuclear tests that we dropped were not tests; they were trying to kill something.
Oh, that's what they were trying to kill. Yeah.
I got Godzilla Rage Across Time, which is a 6-issue mini, I think, which are all one-shots with Godzilla in different historical time periods.
Oh, he fights a monster.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. That usually wouldn't be shocking with Godzilla, but with that movie, I wasn't really expecting to see that. Sorry.
So this is a bunch of one-shots, each one Godzilla appearing in a different time period.
I read the first couple of those, liked it a lot.
Oh, interesting. It is...
right? Isn't that the thing that you handed me?
No.
That sounds like that.
That was Half Century War.
Oh, okay.
This is 6 one-shots appearing. It's like one of them's Feudal Japan, one of them's...
okay.
Yeah. Each issue is written and drawn by different people.
I'm sorry, no, I've not looked at that.
It's kind of a spiritual sequel to Godzilla.
I meant to review that. We never got around to that.
Half Century was so good.
It's really good.
It's the best Godzilla thing. This is kind of a spiritual sequel to Godzilla in Hell, which is the only one I haven't received yet. It's in the mail. And that was the one I was worried about, because when I first saw it, it was $70, and then I found one for $40, and I got that. That is 6, maybe it's 5, one-shot issues that is Godzilla in Hell. And it's a different writer and artist each time. It's their version, I think, of Godzilla in Hell. But I think each one ends with him going to another level. And so they're kind of connected, but they don't actually, it doesn't actually matter what happened before or after. This is Godzilla Cataclysm by, can you guess who this is written by?
Colin Bunn.
Colin Bunn wrote Godzilla Cataclysm, which I believe is some kind of like post-apocalyptic Godzilla story.
You've not read that?
I have not read that. And then I got the back half of Godzilla Rulers of the Earth. I had the first 3 trades, did not have the second 3. Because they put out a big book that was the first 3 trades, and I was like, oh, I'll get that, and I'll wait for the second one. They never put the second one out, so I had to get the 3 single volumes. So, yeah, I don't know if that makes me a collector or not, but I realized, I mean, all but one of these I had every intention of getting and reading at some point.
Yeah.
To be fair. I'm not just getting them because they look nice, but, yeah, I had a panic moment where I'm like, I have to buy all these and I have to spend lots of money to do it. I mean, I don't think I spent more than $150 to get all of those and Godzilla.
What was the most expensive book?
The most expensive
more
book.
Than 30?
Yes. Oh, no. Yeah. The most expensive book was this one, which was Volume 5. 4 and 6 easy to get. 5. This was a $40 book, and Godzilla in Hell was a $40 book.
But chances are those are not going to get reprinted. They're not going to be reprinted in better volumes, and you want them all to match.
The big thing is,
and they have to match.
So on the back of every Godzilla book, it tells you what monsters are inside with these little helpful symbols.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Toho charges by monster.
That's right.
IDW was the first company to get the licenses to the other monsters, and they couldn't sell them well enough to make it worth the price, and
so
apparently they are pricey.
To be like Marvel or something, and that's not going to happen probably.
I mean, they did have them at one point, and they do seem to be buying up their old franchises. They got Conan back, they got Star Wars back, possibly, but
you can't necessarily expect them to reprint those.
No, I cannot necessarily expect it, and that's why.
Has Marvel reprinted anything Dark Horse did with Star Wars?
Yes, they've reprinted quite a bit.
Okay. So that could happen. But
yeah,
that's all a bunch of ifs, though.
Yeah,
you'd be waiting a while, and again, it wouldn't match the trades you have already.
Yeah, and the big one is the back half of Rulers of the Earth, because I never read that. The first Rulers of the Earth is just so much, just like, I'm going to say fan service, but in a good way, where it's just and it's this monster, and like, we got all the monsters, now this guy's going to pilot Mechagodzilla, and it's great.
So even if somebody did reprinted, you wouldn't want to wait that long to read it.
And this is the first one that has the original Mechagodzilla.
Oh, cool.
The not piloted one with all the rivets, and he's kind of tubby like Godzilla. Oh, I'm excited to read these.
Oh, that one's not piloted?
No, the original Mechagodzilla, the one with the monkeys.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, he's controlled by them like in their lab, but there's no one inside of him.
But he's not like an AI or something.
No, but maybe in
like
the second, maybe in Terror of Mechagodzilla. I don't think so. I think he is always controlled. I think he's always a big controlled robot.
So do we ever do the android thing with him, where like he becomes self-aware, or
in Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, the base of him. So all the Godzilla movies keep the first movie in canon,
right? But then they forget other things.
Yeah. So Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, they get the skeleton of the original Godzilla from the first movie, and they build a robot around him, and they make that the like core of the robot, and it kind of starts being alive because it's the original Godzilla. So
then there's a question of identity and who he is. That's interesting. Okay, so I'll go to my stuff now.
Sure, I'm sorry I took so long.
No, you're fine, man. That's cool. So last weekend, I went to Planet Comicon here in Kansas City, and a few people have already heard me talk about some of this stuff, but there are a couple things that I've saved that I wanted to talk about today. So this will be the last video where I talk about Planet Comicon. But if you're on Patreon and you watched the last After Dark, which I just posted yesterday, you might have heard me talk about a little bit of this stuff. So I'm going to start off just showing some of the stuff I got, and then I'll tell a couple of stories, maybe as I go along. So the first thing I guess I'll mention is I bought this ring. I bought this really cool Batman ring that I've been wearing, and I got two of them for a really good deal. I was going to just buy one, but the guy offered me way too good of a deal for both, so I also got this ring, which was the one originally I was looking at, but then I bought this other design too, and that was, these should have been 40 a piece, but I got them both for 50. And I was
would you think it would be tacky to do something like that as a wedding ring?
I don't know. I don't think I would do it personally. I think it depends on not just who the person was that you were, you blindsided me with this question.
Sorry. No, I just had that thought as you were showing it. And I was like, and if he'd gotten these before, they would have been his wedding rings. I was like, but
that's funny. I wouldn't have done it with Sarah.
If Batman was a common bond.
It's not just about who she is, but it's also about who her family is. I would get a lot of crap from
not doing something traditional,
not doing something more traditional, or for it, and also for it being too cheap. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's almost more about that. It's got to have stones in it.
It could be an engagement ring. Well, engagement rings also.
Those also are supposed to have stones. These are $40 rings. I don't know that you could get away with that. I mean, you could maybe be cute and start with it and then replace it real fast, but anyway.
I really just meant the Batman thing. If that, I feel like 10 years ago, absolutely not. Nowadays, up in the air.
Yeah, you don't mean me personally.
No, I just mean that.
I think if a ring like this had stones in it, maybe so. Especially if you did like a theme wedding or something. Again, that's not my style necessarily. People will be surprised to hear me say that.
It's not what I would do either.
But that's not what I would do. Anyway, so one of the coolest things I got at Planet Comicon is sketch cover. I always do sketch covers when I go to shows now. And the one I got, people always ask me, well, who did you get your sketch cover by? It's not like a known guy. It's just a independent cartoonist who goes to shows, and I actually don't have his name right here in front of me, but it's on my Facebook. I did link to his Facebook, so if you want to go order a sketch cover from him, I think he told me that he'll do them from his house, but I don't want to speak for him. But you can go ask him. It's on my Facebook. Anyway, it's on Geekvolution's Facebook. But anyway, I bought a Justice League Power Rangers sketch cover, not because I liked that book, but because it's fun to cross those over, and I wanted to see what somebody would do with it. And so I walked
More
it up
fun
to
in
this
this
guy.
cover than the entire 6 issues.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, more fun right here in this thing this guy made for me in an hour. But all I asked for was Batman and Lord Zed. I didn't even give him a premise. I just said, what can you do with Batman and Lord Zed? And initially I was a little bit concerned. Did I tell you about this?
Yeah.
Because he didn't even know how to spell Zed, so I was like, he wrote notes, Batman Zed, and he wrote Z-E-D, and I was like, in Zed's 2 Ds, and I was, and like, I'm not being a Power Ranger snob, but I was like, oh, if he doesn't know Power Rangers, I don't know what he'll think of to do with Lord Zed. But of course, we live in the future, and he can look it up on his phone and see what it looks like. And he drew this great Batman hitting Lord Zed with a Batarang, and I thought that was just bossa nova.
Yep.
We didn't. I ended up not putting fan art in this week. I'll try to do that next time. So we'll just call this fan art this time, I guess. But I love this. I don't think it's my best sketch cover, but it's really, really good. It's definitely up there. And he did that thing where he did a really good job of covering a lot of the cover and making it look like an actual cover, so there's not too much white space.
I don't know if I've ever seen one as good as your other Lord Zed. For like, you have to look at it and be like, oh, that's not the actual cover.
Yeah, this you can kind of tell is a sketch cover, but no, that one it looks like a bona fide cover.
Yeah, it's not until you get close you're like, oh, this is pencils and like marker.
And somebody did it on it.
Yeah,
it's really cool. But yeah, I love these. This is also one of the more inexpensive ones that I got. He gave me a wonderful deal on that. He was like, well, you're providing your own paper. I bought that from another booth. And then I met a few folks. You know what, I'll do that in a minute. I guess I'll go to Conroy first. And I didn't bring down the Power Ranger print. I should show that off again at some point.
Sure.
But anyway, I guess I'll mention that first. So we met Amy Jo Johnson, who, stay tuned for Geeks Not Nerds, because I'm going to rant about something with her later, but not about her, but she was great. Anyway, but I've been getting my son Jason autographs from Power Ranger actors, from Mighty Morphin actors, since he was 3. And we met the Black Ranger for his act, the Black Ranger, and we've met everybody except for Trini, because of course she passed away in the late 90s. And we also met some of the second. Well, we've got Rocky's signature, but we met Steve Cardenas. But we met some of the second Rangers at Power Morphicon, but I was stupid and forgot to bring the print, so I wasn't able to get those. So that sucks. But we have all the originals now, which is really exciting. And so we met. I reached for it. It's not down here, but we got her signature too. And she complained about having to sign it in pink because the pink doesn't show up real well. But I was like, well, everybody else signed in color, so it's got to be. She's like, I'll do the best I can, and you can see it, but I don't think she was real happy that I had her sign in pink, just because she was worried that, I mean, it's like $40, and I think she was just like, well, it needs to show up. I think she felt bad for us, but I was glad that she did it. Anyway, we also met, and I posted the picture that we got with him on Facebook. We also met Kevin Conroy, and I had him sign this Joker and Batman statue, and he signed the plank there, which was really super cool. And he was super nice. Obviously, he had a super long line, so I didn't get to talk to him very much. But I mentioned Clock King, because I showed Jason the Clock King episode, the first Clock King episode of animated series that morning, and he said that's one he likes a lot. But we didn't have a real interesting engagement.
You know what's great about that Joker Batman statue?
Yeah.
It doesn't look plastic. Like, it looks like it costs more than it actually does.
And it is plastic.
Because every time you go to pick it up, I'm like, make sure you hold the base, because that's going to be heavy. I'm like, oh, right, it's plastic.
Yeah, and that's part of why I wasn't worried about bringing it with me, because I knew I wouldn't break it. This is a statue that my sister-in-law and her husband gave me for my birthday or Christmas one year.
I think it was Christmas this year, wasn't it?
No, it was before that.
That was Christmas last year.
Maybe it was Christmas last
year,
yeah. Because, this is a thing that I've seen a few times and really liked and always passed it up, so it was really cool that somebody thought to buy it for me. And it was really nice that I was able to have Conroy sign something that was, a 3D object, because the only other Batman I have a signature from is Adam West, and he signed that Batarang that's behind Eric there. And so I kind of wanted something sort of like that was already built into the cave somewhere, but wasn't just like a print or something. So I'm really excited about that.
You should make this a thing. You should get all the Batmans to sign something. You should go meet Val Kilmer. And
I should do that.
Who do you think would be the hardest to get a signature from?
Really get on that. You mean if money is no object? Because I would assume that guys like Affleck occasionally show up at a big major show, so he's probably not the answer. That's probably not... Besides people who are dead.
Do you think it's Clooney?
Probably. Because I don't know if he's ever been at a Comic-Con. I mean, yeah, because obviously the hardest people would be people who just don't make public appearances and don't tend to do a lot of signatures. So you'd have to meet him in the wild and be obnoxious and ask for his signature, and you don't want
and
to
have something for him to sign.
But I think Keaton is probably just as hard.
I don't know, because he just did Spider-Man. Like he's gonna be at Comic-Cons, especially if he comes back for a Spider-Man sequel.
Once.
Yeah,
that's true.
You could probably get that one.
Maybe so. I mean, I would have to save up a lot of money. Those guys are gonna be $200-300. At least.
Lots of Spider-Man 2 or 3 whenever he comes back.
A-list actors, yeah. No, and that would be a big deal. But I don't expect to ever get other Batman signatures except for possibly other voice actors.
Yeah,
like
you get the Batman, you get Brave and the Bold, you could get Beware the Batman. I'm sure you can get all 3 of those.
The guy who does both Joker and Batman for things.
Tom something.
Is that his name? Why can't I think of his name?
We can never remember. Remember we had this...
No, it's on the tip of my tongue now that you say that. It's, I'll think of it later. Anyway, you just got people screaming in the comments, I'm sure, right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let me go through a couple other things that I got at the convention. I met a few people. I did meet Tom King and got his signature on what I talked about the last omnibus as my favorite issue so far of his run. And he was a lot of fun. He's really charming in person. I did get to talk to him for a couple minutes, and he's just really gracious in person, and will makes a lot of jokes and seems like just a guy. He's really fun, and I told him how much I love this issue, and that it made me both crack up out loud and kind of tear up in the same issue, and I think he really liked that.
He's always seemed like a really cool guy.
He's really laid back. And then, at the end of our time together, I told him that, it's like Mr. Rogers, at the end of our time together, I told him that...
I was thinking therapy session.
That I really appreciated his run, because I've been reviewing him for a while, and he's always a joy to read. And I told him that I review comics, and that's what I do. That's what I do for my job. And he said, and he goes, "Oh, if I'd known that, I would have been sucking up to you this whole time." And I would have complimented you on your kid, and I thought I would have told you how cool your suit was, and I thought that was really funny. So that was a lot of fun. And then I met Brian Azzarello, and he signed my first issue for Dark Knight 3. I told him that how much I love Lex Luthor Man of Steel. That was the main reason I wanted to meet him.
And you couldn't find it, because that's what you wanted to get
signed. I told him that. I said I wanted to bring that book. I couldn't find it. But we didn't talk a long time, but he was really nice. He's one of those guys that seems kind of like internalized. And he looks like maybe he's mad all the time.
He's got the Jason Aaron thing, where like he looks like he might.
But he's actually
somebody.
Really personable if you sit down and talk to him. And the guy in front of me talked to him for like 5 minutes. I had to wait a little while. And he's really nice. He's really personable, but he doesn't have a personable face. Like he doesn't like come alive and get animated like Tom King kind of did. But he's but he was also pretty gracious.
Does he still have like an Alan Moore beard? Every picture I've ever seen of him, he has like an Alan Moore beard.
No, he had facial hair, but it was more reserved. I think, or maybe it was just a mustache. I can't remember now, honestly. It didn't jump out at me like he had a whole bunch of facial hair. And then I also met, and there were other folks I could have met, but I had limited time to go around looking for people. I was gonna talk to Dan Jurgens, and he left before I had a chance to. Dan Jurgens is not my favorite writer, but he's important to me because of Death of Superman, and I've never had him sign anything. So I brought my black bag. I brought a couple other issues from that I was going to have him sign. And
if I was Dan Jurgens, anytime anyone brought me a black bag, I would just look up and go, "How many times I've signed this issue?"
Oh yeah. But probably as many as they sold.
They all have his signature.
He's 1 million times he's signed this. I have the last one, the last vestige of the unsigned black bags. No, I got the first issue of Batman Ninja Turtles signed by Freddie Williams II. And he was super nice, and I asked him if he was interested in coming on the show at some point, and he seemed really amiable if we had something really particular to talk to him about. So he was like, I don't do a whole lot of like Skype interviews and things, but if you had something you really wanted me to come on and talk about, like it sounded like he wanted to review something. And he said, especially if you ever wanted to do any of the Mirage Turtle stuff, any of the Eastman Laird stuff, and I said, well, we just happen to be in the middle of that run right now. That's what we've been reviewing. And he lit up when I said that, so I'm going to send him an invitation. We're going to do the 3rd volume next show, and there is every possibility that we will have Freddie Williams there with us to talk about it. And if not, we'll invite him to the next one, but
I'm going to do my level best not to ask him about the fact that he works with Freddie Williams, he works with James Tinian IV.
Yes.
He's Freddie Williams II.
Yep.
Why is everyone on that book not a number name?
They should all have,
Once you have 2, you have to do it. You have to commit.
Every single one of them, yeah. IDW's published a couple things where I've seen a bunch of numbered people before, and I can't remember who now, but I had that thought one. I said that in a review once where I was like, they're all numbers, and none of them have original names. And then I also got these on a whim. I say a whim. Jason,
I'm infecting you.
Jason, sort of. Jason met because so there was this kind of underground comic writer who grabbed Jason and was like, "Hey, you would probably love this comic." And he was this really nice guy, super well spoken, like one of the best, like good at selling himself people I've met in a long time. And I forget his name right off, but he does these books for Fractured Scary Tales. I think that's his own company, probably. And he does these kids comics, but he also does adult things. So the publisher and writer is Kevin Glover. That must be who we met. And he did this thing called Super Up Monster Kids, which Jason ended up adoring. He said this is really good, and he asked me to immediately order in the next issue.
I'm really excited to read it.
Which I'm going to do. This is, I haven't read this yet, but Jason gave me a 5-minute synopsis of this and said that this is about a bunch of kids who get together for a superhero team and get the powers of classic kind of Universal monsters, and one of them is named Draculad, which immediately seemed really clever to me, and the art looks really good. It's kind of your standard. I mean, it's throwbacky to like early Marvel stuff, I think, but it's kind of what a lot of all ages stuff looks like right now, and but
that's kind of what like the Marvel's Adventures look like. Well, they still have that line.
Yeah, but I think that's really well handled. I did read this, but I'll actually review this next time
because I really want to read it.
Because Eric wants to review it, and I think it's really good. This is Lady Frankenstein and the Mummy's Brain, which is a really good in its art throwback. The art's wonderfully spectacular.
And I think he did draw that one, right?
No, this is even another guy. He just writes. That's what I thought initially. But this is drawn by and colored by a guy named Shane George. I'm assuming he probably did all this in a computer.
It looks like Hammer Horror, and I'm in love with it.
It really does, and it's throwback to obviously a lot of horror pulpy stuff, but it's written more modern than that. Like the vernacular is modern, but the pacing and the sensibilities are also still real, kind of like 60s, 70s horror, and maybe even a little bit before that. And so it's kind of an impressive mix where, I'm not going to fully review this, but it's kind of an impressive mix where there's a lot of exclamation points, but it also reads like it happened in 2017.
Like retro modern.
Sure.
If that's a term.
Let's call it that.
Can I say that for a second?
Sure.
So Cap was telling me about these books.
I'm just going to ruin this book.
And he was holding this in his hand, and this was the back of it. And I'm sitting here looking at this cover. He's telling me about the souped up monster kids, and I don't know what he's holding. I just see this, and I was like, "Well, that's cool, but I really wish you'd gotten this." And you're like, "Well, that is the book I got." And I was like, "Well, I have to read that." So, So he already read it, but I forgot to read it this week. But I'll definitely read it the next one because I'm super excited to read that.
We'll do that next time. If that already looks interesting to you and you want to go order one, it's fracturedscarytales.com, and I guess that's that's pretty much all the con stuff I wanted to talk about. And then after I get finished with the few other things I wanted to mention, we're going to move on to the Melinda Stongrass interview, and you'll be able to see that. And that was just wonderful and a big deal to me that I got to sit down and talk to her. So look forward to that. And then I'll go through briefly.
I look forward to it because I haven't seen it yet.
I'll go through some pulls. I didn't do this last time because I had weeks of pull stuff, but I haven't talked about or shown you new comics in a while, so I'll do this. And we've been focusing on featured stuff, so I haven't been reviewing a lot of things, a lot of single issues. I've been trying to stay away from that so that we can talk about more, so we have more time to talk about full books, and it's more interesting when you have all of it together. But I read a lot of this I haven't read yet, but I did get around to reading the first issue of, or I guess the prelude for Shattered Grid for Ninja Turtles for Power. I'm looking at Ninja Turtles for Power Rangers. This is issue 24, and I'm really excited about this event. So we finally brought back Lord Draken, and this is about how exactly that happened, and there's some kind of interesting intrigue and politics, with Power Rangers about it's really good.
Is this continuing on from the 60s stuff?
It is, yeah. And that was just one issue flashing back to that, but that's a government agent now who, that experience with losing her team because Zordon sent her on a mission to the moon before they were prepared enough to do it. She's kind of built sort of a Nick Fury mentality, and she compartmentalizes too much, and it's that whole idea. And she has apparently, spoiler alert, had Lord Draken locked away since we got back from the future and hasn't told anybody about it. And she's just been hanging on to him. And so there's a big kind of argument between her and Jason about how necessary that was, and that she's not trusting the Rangers. And I really like mixing in those kinds of modern politics and that the ethical questions that come up with that with the ideals of Power Rangers, which if you tell a more sophisticated story and give these characters some dimension, you can actually really do something with the kind of pacifistic warrior idea of wait until something goes down before you try to solve a problem instead of preempting it. We're really exploring all of that in this book. It's wonderful. And so
sounds like that's where the book should have started.
Yeah, and I keep saying that. It is kind of where that should have started.
Is that Eastman cover?
I bought, so you're going to love this. I bought this at Toys R Us yesterday. I went to Toys R Us because the one near us is closing, because they're closing some of their stores. And I don't know if you knew that.
I know the one near us was closing.
It's closing. It sucks. But I went in there on a whim just to see if they were having any cool sales. And I found, not really. And I found this comic. They made, so they've already stopped making the Mega Block stuff. But when they did that, they did a really small comic, which is annoying because it's like half the size of a normal comic, but they still charge $4 for it, and I kind of hate that, but I have one now, and the only reason I bought this is because Eastman drew Mega Block's Turtles on this cover.
Oh, that's awesome!
And I just think that's really cool that he
Look
did
at Mega
that.
Block Shredder!
Yeah.
Oh, that's super cool.
And is it wild that there was a variant cover for that, and Eastman drew both of them?
Did you see who wrote this?
Yeah, Waltz wrote that.
Yeah, Waltz wrote this.
Isn't that crazy?
That's awesome.
So I had to have that.
This book looks cool. This is what a Kids Ninja Turtles book should look like.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not so much like where it's actually the Mega Block's heads, but like this looks great.
Yeah, it's really neat. So and it's kind of that 2012 crossover thing where it's the Mirage Turtles and they meet the 87
I'm
Turtles.
kind of surprised that wasn't just the next Ninja Turtle series. It was like Ninja Turtles Universe.
Yeah. That's a really good point. You mean for cartoons?
For cartoons.
Yeah, sure. That's what they should have done. I agree with that. And then let's see. I got my stuff all mixed up here. Latest 2 issues of Batman. I'm almost caught up with this. I haven't read these yet, just because it would have felt really weird to read those right after I finished issue 20.
Sure. When
I should have also finished issue 23. Apparently, got more Tales from the Time Train, just because I'm a masochist, I guess. These are not horrible. The Back to the Future stuff, it's just, they haven't been great, but I bought all of them, so I'm collecting them. The first issue of this was, it was just okay. This is still reading too much like a mix of the Back to the Future movies and the cartoon show, and I want it to take itself a little bit more seriously than that, where like it can get to more serious places, but mostly it's just the way they characterize Doc Brown. He's too much of a cartoon character, and he became like a real, complex, fleshed out character at the end of those movies, and he was the protagonist of 3. And so it bugs me that we're still kind of treating him like the comic relief and just a wacky mentor for Marty McFly. He's not always treated like that, but by and large, nobody's got a great voice for him.
Back to the Future has that problem of like it's almost permeated culture too much.
Yeah.
No one actually has a take on that material because it's inside all of us.
It's become a caricature of itself.
Well, and it also has all the edges shaved off, which especially the first film does not have. I mean, not having read that material, I just mean Back to the Future's property.
I'm still buying Action Comics, even though I've been kind of
you have to now.
Not in love with it. Well, I mean, I could wait until 1000 comes out. You know what I mean? But I haven't been.
But you bought all the ones leading up.
I bought all the ones leading up to it. I'm not quite done with the Booster Gold art from before this, but it's kind of dull.
I like that cover.
But I love this cover, and I wanted to show you that. This is $9.97. We're real close to 1000.
1000 is when
by the way, Elite Comics here in Kansas City, where I shop, they're going to have a big party for Action 1000. That we should try to go to that if we can. Here's. Back to the Future, Batman Ninja Turtles number 2, or 2, number 4. I haven't read any of this yet. I've been stacking this up, so I'll get to that. He asked me what I thought of it when Freddie Williams, when I met him, and I said I'm not caught up yet. And he's like, well, as soon as you actually catch up, I think you're gonna love it. And then here's I'm still buying Defenders. I'm not caught up on that. I'm still buying Venom. I lost interest in that.
Don't worry, it's going to be number 1.
I know, and a new creative team. And apparently, that's one of the only 2 books, as far as I know, that we know about from the relaunch. And I guess Dan told me this. I didn't see the article, but so I don't know. I'm assuming this is true. Did you hear about that?
Dan told me too.
That Coates is supposed to be writing Venom? What a strange choice. We'll see.
This has happened with a couple of people where like they started as almost like a side hobby or like side job, and then it becomes their thing.
Yeah. Or at least part of their thing, because you have people who still have regular day jobs that stay in comics and write enough that you'd think that's the only thing they do. But that's still the case with Soul.
That's what I was gonna say. Isn't it Soul?
I'm pretty sure he's still lawyering, but I don't know if that's true. I'm pretty sure though. Astonishing. Speaking of Soul, here's Astonishing X-Men number 8. I've loved what I've read of this. It passed the first issue, but I haven't read this in a while. Got to catch back up on that. And then I bought all the most recent issues of Daredevil because somehow it fell off my pull list, and I wondered where all my Daredevil was, and I assumed that I had just been stacking these, but I haven't been. I didn't have them. So here's all of Mayor Fisk up to now. I need to read this stuff because I haven't yet, but Fisk is the mayor apparently. I don't know how that happens because I haven't read any of this stuff yet.
That seems like that would be what you end your Kingpin miniseries on.
That's a good point, although that's not what that book was about. Well, you still could have done that. I mean, because that was about a girl that was reluctantly writing his autobiography, or his autobiography. I think it was, well, actually, I think it kind of was, because I think it was like a ghost-written thing. I can't remember. But you could have ended that with that. That would have been really interesting. But, and the ending of that was kind of lackluster.
Because it was supposed to be an ongoing.
Really disappointing, yeah. And then there's another Dark Knights one-shot offshoot thing that I didn't know about. Did you know about this?
Yeah, I messaged you about it because Morrison wrote on it.
Oh, is that what this was?
Yeah.
I just found this at the store, and I was like, oh, I probably need that, so I bought this. I haven't read that yet. So anyway, that's all my recent issues and some recent back issues even. And that is, I think, going to be it for new acquisitions.